Hope I didn't just confuse everyone in that. That was.
No, thank you.
Okay, writing the offer. So, writing the offer, the paperwork, again, most people are, if you're not a first-time home buyer, you haven't bought a house in 3, 5, 10 plus years, it's an intimidating process. Most people aren't lawyers, they don't understand reading contracts. These are boilerplate contracts. So the paperwork can be intimidating to them if you don't walk them through this process. And it's as simple as saying one little thing. Make it simple for them. Hey, the contract is basically 12 pages. A lot of times, some sales people will tell you not to call it a contract, call it an agreement. Sounds less committal. Basically, or call it paperwork instead of contract. But basically say the paperwork is basically 12 pages that say 5 things. That's all it is. It's a bunch of legal jargon that says 5 things. And it's what price, I did more than 5 things here, but it's what price, closing cost, earnest money, closing date, do you want a home warranty or not, and are there any additional provisions? That's really all that 12 pages worth of contract, that's all it says. Everything else is boilerplate, standard, very, very common and simple in practice. This is all it really says. So when you can kind of boil it down like that, they're less, and I explain inspection period. You can get out of the contract at any time during our inspection period. Even if you don't like the color of the paint on the walls, we can back out. So when you can kind of explain, like, when we're signing this contract, we're not locked in to this thing. We're not going to lose money, any of that stuff. You might lose the cost of inspections or the cost of an appraisal, but you're not going to be forced to buy this house just because you signed this contract. Another thing I like to explain to people is these are all state contracts. So state attorneys wrote these OREC contracts that we use, and the state is designed to protect the consumer, or the state designs these contracts to protect the consumer. The state considers the buyer the consumer. So there's only one way for the seller to get out of a contract. There's multiple ways for the buyers to get out of these contracts. So it is very much written for the buyers. So you can explain these things, make sure they understand. It's simple to get. It's simple. It's 5 things we're going to say. You can get out of it for any reason during the inspection period. You can get out of it for any financing reasons. If you lose your job or for some reason you're no longer eligible for the loan, we can get out of it for that reason as well. So a lot of outs to get out of the contract. It's very simple contracts. Sometimes that can be intimidating. I had a client, I think I've told this story before. We looked at, when I was brand new, I always make fun of new agents because they show way too many houses. We talked about this on a couple trainings ago. When you're new, you might show 20 houses to a client, and you should never show more than like 7 or 8, 10 tops. And then if you're showing that many, it's because you don't understand what they're looking for, or you can't control their expectations. You haven't set their expectations. And so I had a client when I was brand new, we probably looked at 20 plus properties. He would find one he liked, he'd say, let me think about it, and the next day he'd send me another property to go look at. He'd find another one he liked, say, let me think about it, the next day, send me another property. And I can never nail him down to a property. And so I finally, again, talked to my mentor, and he explained he's probably intimidated about the next steps in the process. He didn't know what to do next. And so he's afraid he didn't know what to do. So the idea was, as soon as he said that he was interested and he was going to think about it, the next day when he said he wanted to see another one, I said, okay, well, what about this one? I know we said we liked it a lot. And he was like, I just don't know if I like the price. And so I use that trick. At what price would you buy it? If they accepted this, would you buy it? Well, yeah, of course. Okay, well, let's draw this up. It's been on the market for a little bit. Let's write this offer and see if they take it. And he came in, he sat down, we walked through the contract with him. And once he understood the process and saw that, then he started writing offers on everything he saw. He was making terrible offers. But I got him over that hump of that fear of not knowing what's next. As a real estate agent, if you can just always be in front of your clients, letting them know what the next step in the process is, it's going to make your job easier. So just make sure they understand what that process is, and then once they find something they love, they'll be able to jump and they won't have that reservation or that fear. Multiple offer situations. Again, when we first kind of wrote this curriculum, multiple offer situations were rare. 10, 20% of the time you're having multiple offers. Over the last 2 years, 80, 90% of the time you're having multiple offers. So we're kind of getting out of that situation where you don't have to tell your client, hey, if you like it, write an offer. and make sure it's over list price. That was the expectation you set before. Now you want to make sure, you kind of set these expectations up front where it's like, there is never a 100% chance you're going to get this deal. If there is a multiple offer, you have no idea who's on the other side writing this offer. There could be a buyer we're competing with that's lost 5 other houses, and they've dug in. They decided, I'm not losing this one, and they go $20,000, $30,000 over list price. There's never a 100% chance you get this. So you want to set that expectation so they're not just crushed when they lose a property. And then a way I always like to give myself permission to be aggressive is I'll ask them, hey, do you have to have this house? Like, you're going to lose sleep over this if you don't get this house? Or do you guys it checks a lot of boxes and you like the house at the right price? And so if you can make them say, I have to have it, it gives you permission to go do something crazy, like offer $10,000 or $20,000 or $30,000 over list price to have it. Now remember, there's never a 100% chance, but if you have to have it, let me go figure out what I think we got to do to get this thing done. Otherwise, they're going to feel like you're spending their money, right? And they didn't give you permission to go do something crazy. And if you're trying to force someone to make an offer 10, 20 grand over list price, it's a very uncomfortable conversation if they haven't given you permission to do that. Does that make sense? If you're not careful, you can lose clients over a multiple offer situation if it's not handled properly. So you always want to make sure they understand the risk in the situation, and then make sure they give you permission to go get the property, or they give you permission to lose it if they say, no, I don't have to have it. Then if you lose it, they're the ones who said, I don't have to have it. Does that make sense, Jeff?
No.
Oh, okay. So you're kind of setting expectation, you're giving yourself an out, you're putting the responsibility on them. And you're giving yourself an opportunity to say, it's not because of me, it's not because I didn't communicate or do a good job, never 100% chance. So again, writing the offer, this is an important one just because, especially first-time home buyers, people who haven't bought in a while, or at certain price points, it's an intimidating process. And this is where the fun of shopping for a home becomes the business of buying a home at this process right here. And so this is where you really need to make sure they understand what's going on.
Hey, Brad, can you talk about acceleration clauses? And I know we're getting away from that.
Yeah, so an acceleration clause essentially says I will beat the highest offer by X dollars. It was useful in like 2019 when we were in a heating up market because not everyone was doing them. There wasn't a ton of multiple offers. 10-20% of the deals were multiple offers, and if you use an escalation clause, which people aren't even sure if it's legal or not still, OREC does not recommend using them even though they have an OREC contract. So some people would not take them. They weren't prevalent. People didn't know what they were, so they question it. But if you used them back then, the other buyer probably wasn't using it, and you had an edge. Halfway through 2020, every dadgum offer had one. And so I started telling clients, stop trying to get cute and come up with an escalation clause and offer the most amount of money you can offer if you want this house. Because that's what an escalation clause is. Like, I want to offer 100, but I'll really offer 110 if I need to. Okay, well, quit trying to be cute and offer 110. Everyone else has an escalation clause, just beat it. So that's what I was trying to get across to my clients. But essentially what an escalation clause is, it says, I'll offer this, but I'll really go up to 110 if I can beat someone in the middle. Does that make sense? I thought they were silly. I thought they were a waste of paperwork. If you go offer 110 to get the house, offer 110 to get the house. It's people trying to save $1,000 or something. I get it. It's real money. But talking about a home that you're going to live in for the next 5-10 years, raise your family and invest, be serious about it. Make a serious offer was my opinion. Not a lot of people agree with me because every single offer had an escalation clause. I did a small study. The results are probably anecdotal, but during a period where we got multiple offers, this was in 21, at the end of 21, I think it was around 50% of the offers across a couple different deals, about 50% of them had escalation clauses in them, and like 70% of them were over list price. And so it got to a point where it was so prevalent that it didn't give you an edge anymore. The edge would just be money, offer more money. That became the edge. Then the edge became appraisal gaps. How much are you willing to pay above appraised value for my home? And so that became the edge for people after that. Every offer had to have an appraisal gap. I think 30% so 50 had escalations and about 30% had appraisal gaps in them when I did my little study. So not as many as I was expecting, but those are the people who won the bids, were appraisal gaps.